Hi, I'm Steve from Steve3D, your indie development and game art channel. This is my Learning Blender tutorial series. This is a full course for learning Blender, teaching you everything you need to know. And the best thing, it is totally free. In this episode, we will learn how to model two objects and then merge them seamlessly. To demonstrate this, we create a chair that we can later use in our scene. On my screen you can already see a chair like the one we will create in this video. In order to do this, we need a few commands you should already be familiar with, like add new objects, scale, rotate, grab, add edge loops and select edge loops. For the feet of the chair, we will also use modifiers. Before we start, I want to do a short theory session to introduce the new commands we want to use. We will use proportional editing when we move a vertex. We will enable it by pressing O or by clicking the button on top of our viewport right here. It will then move vertices adjacent to the selected ones in relation to the distance they have from the selection. The maximum distance is defined by the circle you can see around your cursor. You may increase or decrease the size using your mouse wheel. We will also join objects by using CTRL J in object mode. Let's take a closer look at the chair. At the bottom you can see I have connected the feet to the seat. I also have added a small joint, how it was done back in the day. Let's have a look at the backrest. On top you can see I added a round corner. This could be done like we did the bowl, but we want to use proportional editing here. From the top view you can also see that I added a curve to the crossbeam. This should be done using proportional editing as well. That being said, I want to ask you to pause this video and think about how to create this chair using everything we've learned so far before resuming to see how I do it. I'll start with a cube. Shift A, Mesh, Cube. I set the dimensions to 0.35 by 0.4 by 0.03. I press G for grab, C for the axis and 0.445 for the offset I want to use. Then tab to go into edit mode. I press Ctrl R to add an edge loop. I press 1 for vertex selection. I select the vertices on the left side, delete and vertex. In the properties panel on the right side, we click on the wrench icon and add a mirror modifier. Next, I want to turn the view around to the back side. You can also use Ctrl plus numpad 1 for this. Press 3 for face selection and select the backside face. Numpad 7 for top view, S for scale, Shift C for not scaling the Z-axis. When we now scale the face, you will recognize that the back part is detaching. This is because we use a mirror modifier and scale only half of the object. The mirror modifier does have a setting for this. When we enable clipping, the object will stay connected. S for scale, Shift C, and then we'll scale it down like so. We use tab to go back to object mode. Shift A to add a new object. We select Mesh Cylinder. We ensure that we only have 8 vertices. And then we set the dimensions to 0.03 by 0.03 by 0.43. We press G and then C, followed by 0215. Numpad 1 for front view. Since the table we created in a recent video had rotated feet, we rotate the feet of the chair as well. We press R for rotate, Y for the axis and -2 for the degrees. R again, then X and -2. Because of the rotation, we need to fix the alignment of the bottom and top face. Tab for edit mode. I zoom in and adjust the view so I can see the bottom face. I select it. 1 for front view and R to rotate. Like this. 3 for the side view. R again and align like this. We go to the top. We use Alt-C to make it transparent. We select the top face. Numpad 1 for front view. R for rotate, and we align it again. 3 for side view. R for rotate, and we align it. Press delete and select faces. This will delete the top face of the cylinder which is currently selected. We press tab to go into object mode. We press numpad 7 for top view, G for grab, and we place it here. Shift D for duplicate, and we place it right over there. R for rotate, C for the axis, and 90 for the degrees. G again, and we refine the position. So that's it, the feet are completed, and now we have to join all these three objects to one single object. I want you to pay attention to the orange dot here, and when I select the next foot here, and the seat has an orange dot as well. This is the center of the object. So when you do a rotation or something, this is the point where you circle around. When I select all three objects, you can see that two of them have a red outline and one an orange one. The orange one is the one that keeps its point. As you can see, since I've joined the objects now, the front foot was orange and it did keep its point. You should also have recognized that the second half of our seat is missing now. This is because the mirror modifier was part of the seat, and we used the front foot as our base object, and this one didn't have a modifier. Now I undo everything till the point before I joined the objects. I select everything again, but I take care that the seat is orange. Now I press CTRL J to join, and as you can see, not only the modifier is still here, it is also applied to the other objects I have joined. The objects are now joined to one object, but still the meshes are disconnected. They have no connection between them, and this is what we will fix now. To do this, we need two things. We need to poke a hole into the existing face, and we will also need more geometry that we can use for the connection. We press numpad 7 for top view, tab to go into edit mode, Alt-C to make it transparent. We use CTRL R to add edge loops for more geometry. In this direction we will use two edge loops, so we scroll the mouse wheel for this, and we place it almost on the right side near the edge. We do an Alt left click on this edge and press GG for edge slide. And we refine the position like so. CTRL R for adding edge loops, and in this direction we need 4 edge loops for now. We refine the position and left click. Alt left click on this one. GG for edge slide, we place it here. Alt left click on the next one, GG. We place it here. Alt left click on this one, GG, and we place it here. CTRL R for edge loop, and we place another one here, as well as here. I could have done this before, but I like to have them centered, so I placed the last 3 after I did the first refinement of the positions. We need to see the bottom face, so I press CTRL and numpad 7. Now we want to select all the faces that are intersecting our 2 feet. So this is 8 quads here, and we press 3 for face selection. We hold down Shift while we select the 8 faces. I have to refine the view a little bit, and here is this one. Delete to remove them, and select faces for face. If we now reset our view, you can see that we have holes where the feet met the surface of the seat. We also know that the top face is already deleted on the cylinders because we did this earlier. Now we want to close the gap here, and fortunately we have 8 vertices on the foot as well as 8 vertices on the surrounding edge loop from the seat. We press 2 to go to edge selection, Alt click here and Shift Alt click on the second edge loop. With Alt F we can fill the gap. It did create a lot of trees, but we want to have quads. Since it's a fairly easy topology, we will dissolve some of the edges. We will hold down Shift while we select them. I press Delete and select Dissolve Edges. Please do not delete them, because then you poke more holes into your object. As you can see, the gap is now closed, and the mesh from the foot as well as the seat are connected now. Anyhow, edge selection will still not work, because the edge would flow down the foot and up on the other side, and the bottom face of the foot is still an n-gon, where it's not possible for Blender to select an edge loop. We still have to fill the gap for the second one, so Alt left click, Shift Alt L left click for the second edge loop and Alt F. We also have to clean up our edges, so we select them here, we press Delete and select Dissolve Edges. Now Ctrl numpad 7 to go to bottom view. We use Alt left click to select the edge loop and Shift Alt left click to select the second edge loop. We press G and C and we drag down the edge loops. And then we check the result if we are satisfied. Yes, looks good. The last thing we miss is the backrest that we create now. Here we already have some geometry that we could use, but for the sake of speed we will do it the fast way. You can later remove all the unused geometry by dissolving the edges, how you learned it earlier in this video. If you instead want to connect the meshes, you can do it like we did it for the bottom side of the seat here. Now let's go back to the upside of the seat and add a new cylinder. Press Shift A, select Mesh Cylinder, then we set the dimensions to 0.03 by 0.03 by 0.25. Now numpad 1 for front view, G for grab and C for the axis. Then we move it up so that it intersects with the top face of the seat. Numpad 7 for top view, G for grab, and we move it to the corner here, like so. Numpad 3 for right view, we check if it looks okay. Back to front view with numpad 1, tab for edit mode, then I select the top face, numpad 1 again for front view, G for grab and C for the axis. I refine the height a little bit until I'm satisfied, then I use E for extrude, C for the axis and 0.03 for the amount we want to extrude. E again and we move it up like this. Then E and 0.03 for the amount. E again and we move it up a little bit like so. Next we want to make a rounding to the top part of this cylinder. I want to do this by using proportional editing like we learned in the theory part. We need to add 2 edge loops, so I press Ctrl R and I turn the mouse wheel. I place them near the top end like this. 2 for edge selection. Then alt click on this edge to select the edge loop. If you use S for scale, you can see that only the selected edge is modified. I press Escape, then O to enable proportional editing, or you can use this icon at the top. S for Scale, and you can see all edges close to the selected one are modified as well. You can use the mouse wheel to adjust the distance of your editing. It is marked by the circle around your mouse pointer. We refine the size as well as the scaling until it looks like this. We zoom out to have a second look. It looks fine so far. At the moment our backrest stands straight up, what we want to change. So we rotate it to make it look better. Press number 3 for side view, Tab to go into object mode, and then R for rotate. And we rotate it until we think it would be a comfortable backrest. Now we check if it looks fine. I select the backrest. I press CTRL A and select rotation to apply the current rotation to the selected object. Next I select both objects and I ensure that the chair, which is our main object, does have the orange outline. Press CTRL J to join the objects. Now we create the cross beam. I press Tab for edit mode. I press 3 for face selection. I hold Shift and select the faces to extrude. Numpad 7 for top view, then E to extrude. You can see that the faces keep the round shape from the cylinder. This might lead to problems when rendering because you might create overlapping faces when the beams connect. You can prevent this problem by enabling clipping and fine-tune the merge distance, what we already did when we created the mirror modifier. Next, let's do the bend to the backrest. I press 1 for vertex selection. I select the vertices connecting the crossbeam. Numpad 7 for top view. If you now press G for grab, you can see that even with proportional editing enabled, it is not creating a curve. This is because we don't have geometry available to create the curve. So we can create only a very blocky bend here. If this is the desired look, you are already done. If you want a more detailed curve, you have to add additional geometry. I undo my changes. Ctrl R for edge loop. I add 2 edge loops at the upper crossbeam and 5 edge loops for the lower crossbeam. You can now grab and adjust the edge loops one by one, or you enable proportional editing to let Blender do this for you. Doing it manually could be beneficial if you want to create something outside the box. I select the leftmost vertices on both crossbeams. Numpad 7 for top view. G for grab, and then I use the mouse wheel to adjust the proportional editing to my liking. Once we have done this, we can compare the look of the band, having 2 or 5 additional loops. I personally will go for 2 additional loops, because I think this is the charm of low poly. I can also use Shade Smooth and Subdivision modifier later if I want it to be smoother. I quickly revert the lower crossbeam and set it to 2 edge loops. So, this is how our final chair looks. I think it's looking good for our third model in this series. And now let's push boundaries. Let's talk about the practice object I want you to create until I upload the next video. But before we do that, I want you to click subscribe, like and to press the bell button to ensure that you don't miss out whenever I release new tutorials. On my screen you can now see a new chair, which does have a little bit more details. With exception of the backrest, I did only use tools we have already learned. All the ornaments were done by adding additional edge loops and then scaling them as needed. The rounded edges on the seat were done with the bevel tool. The style of the backrest could be achieved by using proportional editing. First, bend it backwards like we did earlier, and afterwards bend it upwards. That being said, there is another way to create this kind of style, which is called spin tool. We will learn about this in our next episode. I hope you have fun creating this model. I hope to see you in the next video. Like and subscribe.